What if your neighbor turned your yard into her personal highway?
It's just a fence. Get over it!
This ends now.
The crash was deafening, a brutal symphony of crunching metal and splintering fiberglass that shattered the afternoon calm of our quiet suburban street. I bolted from my living room, heart pounding, and there she was, Barbara Henderson, the iron-fisted ruler of our homeowners association, clambering out of her once pristine Lexus SUV. Smoke curled from the crumpled hood, the front grille mangled like it had been through a demolition derby. Her bumper dangled precariously, and shards of headlight glass littered the ground. But my fence? It stood tall, unyielding, a silent victor in the chaos. Neighbors emerged from their homes, some whispering in shock, others stifling chuckles. For months, Barbara had treated my yard like her private express lane, smashing through my boundary with impunity. This time, though, she'd met her match, and it wasn't by accident. How did a mild-mannered retiree like me transform a humble backyard barrier into the instrument of her downfall? The tale that follows is one of persistence, clever strategy, and a dash of sweet justice. But it raises questions about where the line blurs between self-defense and revenge. Stick with me. You might find yourself cheering or perhaps debating the ethics long after the story ends. When I first settled into Willow Creek Meadows, a cozy subdivision on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, I believed I'd found my perfect retirement haven. Picture it, tree-lined avenues where grandkids could play catch without worry, folks exchanging waves over morning coffee, and homes with manicured lawns that evoked those classic Norman Rockwell paintings. My place wasn't the grandest and modest two-story with a wraparound porch, but it had heart. And central to that was my fence. Laugh if you will, but that enclosure wasn't some slapped-together eyesore. I'd spent countless weekends crafting it from solid oak planks, sourcing the wood from a local mill, measuring every inch with precision, and sealing it with a weather-resistant stain that gave it a warm, honeyed glow. It wasn't ostentatious, just functional and proud, marking the edge of my little kingdom. For a spell, life hummed along peacefully. I'd lounge on the porch swing at dusk, watching fireflies dance while my old golden retriever, Buddy, snoozed at my feet. I tended my vegetable garden, kept the grass edged just so, and ensured the fence stayed straight as an arrow. No complaints from anyone. It was idyllic. But paradise has its serpents, and in Willow Creek, that serpent went by Barbara Henderson. She was in her early 60s, always sporting oversized designer shades, a perpetual frown etched on her face, and a Lexus SUV that loomed like an armored vehicle. Barbara wasn't merely a resident. She chaired the HOA board, wielding her position like a scepter. She acted as if the whole community was her fiefdom imperious, unassailable, and utterly convinced that her edicts were gospel. At first, I brushed her off. She had her entourage of like-minded busybodies who murmured during meetings, her fondness for tacking up snide memos on the community bulletin board about proper curb appeal, and her litany of nitpicky regulations. Fine by me. If she wanted to fuss over mailbox heights or the exact shade of mulch, that was her pastime. But soon enough, her gaze fixed on me. It began innocently enough with offhand remarks. She'd cruise by in her Lexus, ease down the tinted window, and quip, "That fence of yours is looking a tad weathered, don't you agree?" Our guidelines leaned toward a more polished finish. Or she'd ambush me at the neighborhood park, finger wagging as she inspected the posts. "Have you verified the post spacing? We can't have asymmetry lowering our standards." I'd grin politely, mutter something agreeable, and retreat, chalking it up to her needing an outlet for her energy. Then came the escalation. One crisp autumn morning, Buddy's frantic barking jolted me awake. I shuffled outside, steaming mug in hand, only to discover a section of my fence bowed inward, planks cracked and askew. No storm had raged overnight, but telltale tire ruts scarred my lawn, leading right to the breach. I didn't need Sherlock Holmes to finger the culprit. Later that day, there was Barbara, easing her gleaming silver Lexus out of her garage across the way. Instead of sticking to the paved road like civilized folk, she veered casually onto my grass, rumbling through the gap as if it were a designated thoroughfare. She even tossed me a saccharine wave, the sort that screamed, "Try me." Any decent person might have apologized, perhaps offered to cover the fixes. Not Barbara. She amped it up. At the next HOA gathering in the community clubhouse, she rose dramatically and proclaimed, "We must tackle unsightly property damages. They devalue our entire enclave." Her eyes bored into mine, implying I was the offender. I submitted a formal grievance, complete with snapshots of the tracks and debris. The reply? A curt note promising investigation. A week on, an official citation landed in my mailbox. Violation, fence in disrepair. Penalty, $150. I stared at it, incredulous. She'd wrecked my handiwork, and now her cronies were penalizing me? That ignited a fire in my belly. No longer was this mere irritation, it was a personal affront. Barbara had ridiculed me publicly, demolished my labor of love, and slapped me with a bill for the insult. Each glance at the splintered oak fueled my simmering rage. Yet I'm no hothead. Life's taught me that true retribution isn't rash or flashy, it's methodical, timed just right. I began observing her patterns. Early Pilates at the rec center, midday errands, evening patrols in her SUV, scouting for infractions. And repeatedly, she'd shortcut through my yard, deliberate as daylight. If she insisted on making my fence her driveway, perhaps it was time for the fence to retaliate. War had been declared, and I aimed to win. The initial breach seemed like a fluke. Maybe she'd misjudged the turn from her driveway, or perhaps a hurried phone call distracted her. I extended grace, repairing the damage over a full Saturday, sawing fresh oak, aligning posts, applying stain under the Ohio sun. But when she plowed through again midweek, cackling into her earpiece without a backward glance, I knew it was no mishap. It was entitlement incarnate. She turned it into routine. Every few days, fresh gouges in the earth, shattered slats like matchsticks, debris strewn across my flower beds. Each mend felt like a dare, her Lexus bumper triumphing over my efforts. I attempted diplomacy first. One evening, as she unloaded shopping bags, I approached evenly. "Barbara, you've been cutting through my fence. It's got to stop." She didn't flinch. "Oh, come now, Harold. It's hardly a fortress, just some planks. It resembles a public path. If privacy mattered, you'd have opted for chain link." Her condescension dripped like syrup, treating me like a novice. She flashed a plastic smile and added, "Really, you ought to thank me. I'm giving your yard some excitement." Excitement? That word echoed as she vanished indoors. Chaos, more like. So, I escalated to the HOA. I compiled evidence, timestamps, photos, even grainy footage from my phone of her SUV barreling through. At the board session, I anticipated fairness. Instead, Barbara lounged opposite, smirking as the chair, Mr. Ellis, perused my dossier. "We value your input," he droned, "but boundary issues are nuanced." Nuanced? My land, my fence, ravaged by their chairwoman, what nuance? Barbara chimed in, feigning sympathy. "Harold, perhaps the issue lies with your structure. It's not quite aligned with our vision. A sturdier build might prevent mishaps." The board bobbed like puppets, murmuring about visuals and hazards. I left with another citation for visible disrepair, my blood boiling. That evening, on the porch with Buddy whining sympathetically, the unfairness gnawed. I wasn't battling just Barbara, it was a rigged apparatus. She grew audacious, turning destructions into spectacles. During a backyard grill out with pals, she charged through, flinging wood skyward, then honked cheerily as if joining the party. My friends gaped, stakes forgotten. Barbara revved away, guffawing. Another instance, she paused post-crash, window down. "Better patch that up, Harold." The association frowns on blemishes. Her mirth grated like sandpaper. Humiliation mounted. Not merely property lost me, standing suffered. Whispers circulated, pity from some, amusement from others. I overheard a quip at the corner store. Harold should charge tolls at this rate. Costs piled. Oak lumber pricey, stain not free, weekend squandered. Yet HOA fines rolled in for neglect. It felt like a farce penned by a cynic. But amid the ire, resolve blossomed. I journaled incidents meticulously, angles, times, snaps for future leverage. Each intrusion, I whispered to myself, she's forging her own noose. Arrogance like Barbara never foresee fallout. Their clout blinds them. As I hammered yet another repair, sweat stinging, I vowed, next assault, she'd rue it. How a mere fence can consume you day by day, plank by plank. That oak sentinel morphed into my shame's emblem. Mornings brought not serenity, but wreckage surveys, Buddy nosing debris mournfully. The silence from allies stung worst. HOA inert, neighbors cowed by Barbara's wrath, even township clerks dismissive. Civil dispute, sir, one yawned, eyes glued to her monitors if vehicular assaults on private land were petty spats. Barbara paraded like royalty, her HOA thrown a stage for tyrannies, berating folks for visible bins, unapproved blooms, inch-close parking. Hypocrisy reigned. Rules bound others, not her. One sweltering afternoon, mid-repair, she pulled up, shades perched imperiously. Harold, rethink this icerite's tarnishing Willow Creek. I mopped sweat, glaring. If vehicles ceased ramming it, it'd shine. She sneered. Mishaps occur, but upkeep's your duty. Regulations endure. She accelerated off, my hammer nearly splintering in grip. The gull scorched. I became the neighborhood jest, pitying glances eroding my pride. The breaking point? A Sunday family barbecue. Me daughter, son-in-law, aging sister visiting. Laughter flowed until Barbara's engine roared. She hurtled through, debris flying. Her Lexus skimmed the deck by feet. My sister dropped her lemonade, face ashen, hands quaking. Terror gripped. What if it had struck her? Barbara didn't halt, her chortle fading. That crossed bounds. No longer about would this threaten safety, respect. Sleepless, I replayed indignities, sneers, shards, slights. Rage brewed, but cool strategy prevailed. No outbursts, no vandalism. I'd harness her hubris. Bullies anticipate snaps, not cunning. I'd grin, bide, hone my edge as she supplied rope. Plans coalesced. Spikes? Ditches? Sketches filled notebooks. But legality beckoned. I pored over bylaws, ordinances, codes till dawn. The gem? Owners could fortify fences provided exteriors matched norms. I could erect a juggernaut, cloaked in oak facade. Helplessness ebbed, empowerment surged. Defense no more ride, arm my boundary. Sleepless post-discovery, bylaws my ally. Paper trumped pull. Dawn brought purpose, no flimsy fixes. The fence would transcend marker, becoming manifesto. Research ensued. Forums, tutorials, chats with ex-builder chum. Materials, steel beams from industrial yards, sunk deep as bunkers. Cloak and oak for compliance. Add prickly holly bushes beauty masking barbs. List resembled fort prep, 10-foot steels, cement sacks, matching oak, bolts, holly from nursery. Thorns for post-crash tangle. HOA couldn't gripe at greenery. Secrecy paramount. Barbara's network spied relentlessly. Nocturnal labor, lights dimmed, shovel scrapes muffled by night sounds. Buddy guarded, barking at headlights. Holes cavernous, for feet down, back screamed, but progress thrilled. Concrete set steels immovable. Oak sheathed, seamless from afar. Holly woven, spikes lurking. Dawn inspections. Unremarkable fence, fortress within. Cameras nestled in foliage, street and yard views. Undeniable proof. Daytime facade. Nods to Barbara, casual waves, minor tweaks to veil upgrades. She cruised by, smirking, oblivious to lurking doom. Anticipation savored, envisioning screech, steam, her shock. Revenge loomed, her ego the catalyst. Tension crackled post-upgrade, like pre-storm hush. Mornings expectant, evenings watchful. Then, a lazy Saturday. Porch perch, paper feigned, eyes vigilant. Barbara's garage yawned. Lexus emerged, chrome defiant. She, shades donned, scowl set, ignored me. Revs built. She angled at the familiar spot, accelerating. Impact? No would snap steel's thunderous clash, grinding shriek. SUV bucked, airbags deploying with thuds. Holly raked paint, petals confetti. Neighbors swarmed, devices aloft. I approached leisurely, relishing. Barbara emerged disheveled, blouse soiled, arms scratched. What sorcery? She wailed, finger jabbing. I arched brows. Seems you misjudged a fence. Laughter erupted bold, unmasked. Months of tyranny shattered. She kicked futilely, clang mocked. Ambush, she spat. I shrugged, legal fortification. Docs ready. Doubt flickered. Crowd thickened, filming wreckage. Fluids pooled. Holly bloomed victoriously. Barbara rallied. He's hazardous. Booby trapped. Jenkins retorted. You invaded his land, expect confetti? Roars ensued. She blustered lawsuits. Power evaporated. I leaned. Well, Barbara, detours permanent. Scarlet-faced, she retreated amid guffaws. Dethroned at last. Humiliation fueled Barbara's wrath. Wreckage lingered, spectacle supreme. She accused. Trap, summoning Ellis. He arrived pressed, clipboard ready, sweating. Barbara clutched. Death machine. Penalize him. Ellis eyed SUV ruins, my fence pristine, then me composed. Details. I recounted. She trespassed. Fence held. Paperwork here. Folder proffered. Permits. Bylaws highlighted. Barbara vibrated. Sabotage. Ellis sighed. Did you drive through? Irrelevant. Dangerous. I interjected. My land compliant. Footage ready. Phones buzzed. Murmurs eager. Barbara mute. Ellis. Rules apply. Trespass violates too. She erupted. Betrayal. But tide turned. Laughter sealed. Compliant. Sweetest verdict. Barbara stomped, vowing regret. Neighbors patted. Overdue stand. Victory tasted divine. Her empire cracked. Wreck didn't stay local. By Monday, buzz peaked. Clips viral. TikToks scored dramatically. Barbara fumed, snapping at all, but impotence showed. Adjuster arrived. Suit crisp, assessing. From porch, I eavesdropped. Vandalism, she insisted. He. Ma'am, you collided via trespass. Octave rising. Trickery. He. Policy excludes intent. History noted. Neighbors testified. Jenkins on hazards. Lopez on kids' fears. Evidence mounted. HOA met. Barbara demanded action. I countered with docs. Drive. Murmurs supportive. Ellis. Herald compliant. Your conduct scrutinized. Ally desertion. Claim denied for fraud flag. Laughter open. Authority stripped. She became liability. Board distancing. Rage peaked Thursday. She charged, screeching blame. I quipped back. Then, madness. She uprooted my mailbox, base intact. Time halted, surreal triumph. Gasps, films rolled. Federal crime. Jenkins yelled. Barbara, provoked. Sirens wailed. Cops arrived. Reason for mailbox? Officer queried. Set up. Cuffs clicked amid cheers. HOA chair, futile. Led away, she glared. Unfinished. But law trumped. Endgame. Arrest echoed weeks. Replays. Headlines. HOA tyrant mailbox mayhem. Emergency meet. Stripped. Banned. Fines cascaded. Driving. Destruction. Fees. Premiums soared. Repairs pocketed. Shunned. Allies fled. For sale sign rose. Champagne popped discreetly. I refinished fence. Plaque. Barbara's final shortcut. Neighbors adored. Symbol of uprising. Ellis shook. You succeeded where we faltered. Vindication pure. Beyond jests, lesson. Arrogance crumbles under rules. Patience prevailing. This yarn isn't solely crashes or posts, its power abuse versus steadfastness. I could have raged early, risked folly. Instead, studied, waited. Barbara self-destructed. Blind pride meets unyielding wall. For your own bullies, bosses, can stand firm. Rules your shield. Let hubris trip them. What do you think? Share in the comments. Was my approach justified, or did it veer into vengeance? How about broader issues like violence and injustice in everyday life? Have you faced similar tyrants? Take a stand. Is passive resistance always best, or sometimes force needed? Express your views. Let's debate what fairness truly means.